and welcome to my podcast Knows What You Read in the Dark, a book club podcast made by chaotic people for chaotic people. I'm Lady.
I'm Kristen.
I'm Kaitlyn.
And I'm B.
And we are four friends here to tell you what's what about the books that we read and loved this month, or the books we hated this month. So to start us off, I wanted to know, how do you pick your next read?
Mood.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's sometimes where I won't do that. If it's a book club pick, or if Kaitlyn or somebody sends me a message and is like, hey, I just read this and it's really awesome, you should do it, then you kind of jump on. But usually it's a mood thing. I have to find something that matches me in that moment.
Yeah, for me, I think it's just pure luck of the draw.
Yeah, same for me.
I was going to talk about this when I talked about my bit, but I'll talk about it now. I started and bounced off of 4 different books trying to pick something for this episode. I think actually the total number was 6 books, just because none of them were striking the right moods for me. And I think it's all just pure chance. And they're all books that I know I'm going to like at a later time. So I'll have to come back to them later.
Don't you hate that though?
No, that's what I mean by mood. I'll definitely have a lot in mind, but it really is all right, what's gonna jive?
Yeah.
And including book club books, I have to knowing that all right, I want to make sure I read this book in time for the monthly read and stuff. Sometimes I have to either read something else to get it out of my system and then be ready for it, or I have to mentally, I don't know, prepare or cajole myself into being ready to read the book club book sometimes, or just whatever I ended up reading. You open up especially when I do ebook reading, or even if I just walk into the room that has, my literal physical TBR, and I'm all right, what book is going to shame me into feeling like I need to read it right now?
Yeah, I feel that. Sometimes I just stare at my bookshelf and I'm like, okay, which one of you is it going to be?
Yep.
Honestly, that's what I've been doing lately, especially since I'm someone who never reads any summary ever. I only ever look at the cover and go this is the one I'm gonna read, this is the one I'm buying. So it's super chaotic, but lately I've just been which cover do I vibe with the most? Oh, this one, and that's what I read.
Very valid.
Yeah.
No, I'm a book summary person. I think because will read such a wide variety of different genre and stuff, that it really is is this one much more historical fiction and really founded in historical facts fiction, or is this a nonfiction? Sometimes it's just all right, I gotta just kind of churn through some nonfiction stuff and learn some
the
more.
horror.
The horror.
I can't even imagine.
One day I'll bring a nonfiction book to the book.
Oh, I mean, please do. Yeah, please do.
I like to read memoirs sometimes, or I've read a couple of true crime books. If it's wrongful convictions, I love reading those.
Yeah. I can listen to audiobooks of nonfiction books because it's just like listening to a podcast for me. But reading them, whether that's physical or digital, I literally get 2 pages done. I'm okay, something else.
I definitely have to be in the right mood, or I feel like I'm reading a textbook sometimes.
Yeah.
But I tend to go ladies route. A lot of times if I am in a bookstore or whatever, I will gravitate towards covers I think are really nice. And then if I'm not completely sold, I'll read the back. But 9 times out of 10, I'm oh, this one's pretty, and I buy it.
Yeah, no, I don't read the back.
I can do that with covers, except, I don't know, recently, the past couple of years, I see there's a lot more book covers that all have the same feel and it's the same 4 artists or graphic designers are used to make covers, and I'm just I don't want to see another book that looks like this.
That's why I won't read vector books.
No, exactly. If the book has a vector cover, I need someone to tell me it's good, otherwise I will never read it.
Yup.
Well, conveniently enough.
Oh my god, is that what you're reading?
Yes.
Shut the fuck up.
How dare you bring a vector book to our podcast?
Perfect.
This is a sacred space.
I brought a vector book, and it's good.
Okay.
And conveniently enough, it was one of the ones for War and Page Library. For when did we do retellings? Was that March?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, it was one of the Warm Page Library options in March. And it was probably my favorite one. So I felt like it would be nice to talk about it here. So the book I'm going to talk about is Two Wrongs Make a Right by Chloe Liese. I hope I'm saying her name correctly. This is actually a retelling or a reimagining of Shakespeare's Much Ado About Nothing. I went into this not expecting a whole lot because we've made it pretty clear, like, we don't typically read, like, these vector cover contemporary romances. But I wanted something really light and easy, and I found myself really, really enjoying the story. So we follow B. Wilmot and Jamie Westenberg, who have what I can only refer to as a meat disaster at a birthday party.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
It's awful.
Yeah. It's terrible. They're at a birthday party for their mutual friends. B spills her drink on him twice in one night.
Oh my god.
And so
it's great.
Yeah, their literal first interaction is her spilling her drink on this man. So naturally, like, they do not get off on the right foot. And it doesn't help that kind of at first glance, they are way, way different. B's covered in tattoos. She's mouthy and sassy. She wears bright colored dresses with Doc Martens. She's also an erotic artist. So she draws like nudes. Yeah.
Excellent.
I love her.
Yeah. She's a really good MC. But then on the flip side, you have Jamie, who's Mr. Prim and Proper. He wears khakis to birthday parties. He looks like he irons his underwear.
I love he wears khakis to birthday parties.
Yeah, like
so judgmental. So
judgmental. But it's just, he has like this air that he's stuck up, almost like a Darcy vibe. Like when you first see him, you're like, oh, he definitely thinks he's better than everybody else. And he's a doctor. So like,
oh, of course.
Even on the career element, like, they couldn't be more different from each other. So it's like two polar opposites trying to come together, and then it's like the magnets fling apart. And so, but their friends have it in their head that they will be perfect together. So they keep trying to get them into the same room at this party. Eventually they end up in a closet together while they're playing hide and seek at this birthday party. Yeah. And the tension, y'all, was so real. Even after this meat disaster, like, they still, like, were kind of gravitating towards each other because, and you get, this book conveniently is dual point of view. So you're getting to see, like, even though, like, these two people do not like each other, there's still, like, an attraction there. At one point, B is like, I just wish that he was ugly so I could move on from him.
I get it. I get it, girl. I get it.
Exactly. Like, I totally understood. But yeah, so they're in this closet. The tension's really real. It's very like, you're so annoying, I want to make out with you so you'll shut up. Before anything too real can happen, though, someone opens the door during hide and seek and it gets broke up. So fast forward a few days later, Jamie and B find out from their friends that they've been set up on a blind date with a mystery person. And the friends give them the phone number of the person they're supposed to meet. And of course, they don't know that it's the other person. And you kind of got like a You've Got Mail situation. I just aged myself there. But it's like they hate each other in real life, but then they're talking back and forth and they're really, really getting along, and they're kind of, they've got this attraction happening, and they're getting along really great. But in the meantime, like in this week that passes while they're texting, they see each other a few times and they argue and bicker and just like get under each other's skin so much in person. Anyway, week goes by, the date comes up, and they found out they've been played again by their friends. So, because this is a contemporary romance, their plan is to fake date and then dramatically break up down the road.
That always works.
Great plan. Solid.
It always worked. I don't know,
what could possibly go wrong?
Nothing. It's absolutely flawless. It's gonna work out. Their logic behind this is like, if they, if they had this dramatic breakup, they'll show their friends that they shouldn't meddle in their relationships and blah, blah, blah. It's honestly shitty reasoning, and it's stupid.
Who cares? It's fake dating.
Exactly.
Fake dating always has the absolute worst reasons behind it. They're like, oh, if we do X, Y, Z and date, then everybody will leave us alone. No, they won't.
No.
Exactly, I remember that, yeah.
You're just gonna, like, fall in love in the meantime, but what do we freaking know? So they, like, as we've said, this goes on like you'd expect. It's a pretty typical fake relationship, like, material. You know, if you've read one, you've read them all. You know what's gonna happen.
I love that.
Oh, I eat it up every time.
Every time.
Me
So
too.
it hits every single time.
Every time.
And so, but what I really like about this book is how perfect these two are for each other, despite what you initially think. This book really highlights each of their own mental illnesses and how they can mesh together if you're with someone who understands you and has patience. And what I also love about the mental illness that's like brought into this book is it doesn't define them. It's just something that they have to work around. And so B has autism. And Jamie struggles with extremely high anxiety and low self-worth due to some issues with his family that get brought up later on in the book. And what I love about these two is they really try to understand the other person and work through it together so that the other person is never uncomfortable. Or if they do get uncomfortable, they work together, they figure out what caused that, and then move on from there. They don't work around it. They don't try to prevent it. They just take it as it comes, battle it together. And I really, really enjoyed that in this book because it was just like, it was kind of refreshing, one, to have like these two people that have these problems, but they don't let it define them, but then they still acknowledge it and the other person acknowledges it. And they're like, this is something we both deal with. Let's, work together to try to bring some kind of balance in our relationship.
I love that.
Yeah, that's great.
And I'll say that part was like a big point for me in terms of redeeming the way that they got set up, because I think like, and it's brought up in the book, but like when they're basically tricked into this like dating scenario by their inner circles, like I definitely felt when B mentions B anyway.
I know, right?
Yeah. But when she talks about the hurt involved with like being tricked, and I really liked, as you mentioned, like the kind of the details and the nuance to how well they do match to each other in terms of personality and how they both manage and also treat each other as a result in terms of like having certain amounts of patience and understanding and compassion. And so that was a big redeeming point for me to like resolve the tension of being tricked into that whole like blind date scenario.
Yeah, it was really good. And there's a part, B and Jamie have been talking for a little while. They've been like fake dating for maybe a month or two. And B tells Jamie, that she has autism, and like Jamie's response to this was just so nice. Like, I realize he's a doctor, he's a child doctor, he's a pediatrician. Let me act like I'm an adult here and not say child doctor. Anyway, he's a pediatrician. So like he has a little bit more patience and understanding, like as far as this kind of stuff goes, I guess. And so like he was just so sweet to her, and he was like, well, he's like, always tell me if I am making you uncomfortable or if there's something that you don't want me to do as far as like sensory goes, or like it was just so nice. And like I don't typically see like autism as a trait in a character in a book very often, and it was really nice that it was represented so well and wasn't like, because sometimes I'll just say it, like when people try to put mental illness in their books, it is so exaggerated and not realistic.
Yeah.
So bad.
I just read a book, I didn't just read it, it was a couple months ago, but it was a Phantom of the Opera retelling, but the main character had bipolar disorder. And it was the worst representation of bipolar disorder I have ever read. And like, it was her only character trait in the whole book. I couldn't tell you anything else about this bitch except that she was bipolar. And I was just like, I hate this. Like, people are more than this thing, like this chemical imbalance in their brain. Stop defining your characters this way. It's disgusting.
Kristen was going to read this book that, I don't know where she saw it at, but she like just sent me a screenshot of my review of that book that I read years ago and was like, okay, never mind. I'm not going to read this now because my review is like the trope of like possession seen only as mental illness. And it just, people take it and they take these ideals from so long ago and apply them to horror concepts, or even like in romance books, they make these characters out to be these like really quirky, awkward, like it's done up for laughs or it is done to make it horrific. There's no in between.
Right. Yeah. It was convenient. It was actually a book I was going to pick for a themed month for One Page Library. I won't say it because it'll spoil what we're going to be doing. But yeah, I saw her review
Dodged
and I was
a bullet.
Yeah, I was like, ooh, pass. Because my luck would have been the one that won.
Well, but I think you make a point as what Kaitlyn was saying, like, you know, when something is done to such an extent that it really dehumanizes the person, whereas in this book, just kind of like you're saying, Kristen, like there's such a human element in it, and being able to, you know, demonstrate that you have characters that have certain mental illnesses or something, but you still, they're human, right? You don't dehumanize them by like extending out, you know, that mental illness as like, again, like as you say, their only character trait, or as, you know, bring it into like to villainize them or something like that. Like, and that's what happened, you know, when we're talking about like what happens historically, like it's all these efforts to like dehumanize so that you're, you know, when that person's rights are ignored, it's justified. But yeah, this book doesn't do that. And that was huge for me to be able to read that. Not only for Bee's autism, but also having a male character like Jamie with anxiety and like really crippling anxiety sometimes, and having his point of view working through it, like that was huge.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think in a lot of ways, like I related to both of these characters, but I related to Jamie a lot because, you know, like like you said, his anxiety can be extremely crippling. And also, too, like, he has extremely low self-esteem because of the way that he's treated by his family. And always feeling like he's not good enough for people. And he was recently, like, left by another... I think he might have been engaged to another woman. I can't remember if they were engaged, if they had just been dating for a long time. It's been like a month since I read this. But she leaves him for someone in a more prestigious medical field because, like, he's looked down upon for being a pediatrician because his entire family is full of surgeons. As if being a pediatrician isn't an astounding, amazing
Seriously.
feat. Like, the man is a genius, and they're like, well, you're not a surgeon, so it just doesn't matter. So, like, he has all this stuff happening to him, and then it's so nice having, it's like Bea said, like, having this male character going through these things that typically you only see reflected in female characters.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I don't know, I really enjoyed it. Speaking of Jamie Westenberg, this man, I love him so much. He is like, he is very like prim in the street, freak in the sheets, okay? Like, he has like a dirty mouth. Like,
yes.
Yeah, this book has like a little bit of smut in it. Not a whole lot, but there's a little bit. And like the words that comes out of this man's mouth is just like, oh, okay. He's like all clean cut and dressed up. But then you get him home and he's a dirty talker. He knows his way around a woman. He literally gets on his knees for Bea, like,
check. We're checking it off the list as we go.
Yes, like, every time this man did anything, I was like, love it, love it, love it. He is perfect. He's like a true simp for Bea once he works his way around being uncomfortable around her just because of their meat disaster. And this book was one of my other favorite trope, which is the man falls first.
Yes.
Yep.
My favorite. My only gripe with this book is, of course, it has the third act breakup in it.
Oh no.
Yeah, and normally, like, I can kind of overlook it. It's in every freaking romance novel. The problem in this one was that it was the most forced. It was like, it was just there because it's in the blueprint of a romance novel. Like, it could have been avoided, and it, honestly, like, it really pissed me off when it happened because I was like, this was so unnecessary. There was zero reason for it. And like I said, it just felt like they were following the blueprint of romance novels. And you don't have to do that. You can do whatever you want. It's your book. You don't have to follow this blueprint. You can do whatever you want. They can stay together and happy until the very end.
Exactly. Please.
Please. Not every relationship has to go through a dramatic breakup. Most of them don't. Like, most couples that are still together have never, like, broken up in the past. Like, I don't understand.
This is part of the reason why I always tend to bounce off of contemporary romance novels, is because I fear that third act breakup so much, because it gets on my last fucking nerve.
Yeah.
Every single time it happens.
Yeah, and what made me so sad was, like, it really didn't look like there was gonna be one. When you go into fake dating, like, it always has one, because at some point or another, it's gonna blow up in their face. But it was really, like, going in the direction, I was like, man, maybe there's not gonna be one. Because, I mean, it was pretty late into the novel, but it did. And, like, the drama that was included, like, with this breakup could have been a plot point and could have had, like, some kind of tension and conflict, but they didn't need to break up over it. And it was just, I don't know. Anyway, the conflict was over pretty fast, so I got over it. Like, it was maybe a chapter or two. Like, I had to read Jamie being really sad, and it hurt my heart so much.
We don't want that. Yeah.
No.
We want our sad, wet boys need to be sad and wet for reasons outside of the relationship.
Exactly.
Important words of wisdom.
Exactly.
Yeah. If the sad, wet boy is sad because of the relationship, he's not a sad, wet boy. He's just pathetic.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. And we can't have that. So, I guess all that to say, even if you're someone who doesn't normally go for these kind of books, like literally everybody here, I would still recommend it. I know B read it because I think she's the only one in this group that read it with the book club, but a couple other people did, and everybody seemed to really like it. The writing was really good. The comedy and romance were so cute. Like, all of their little interactions. There's a part where they go to a painting class together, and it is so adorable because the lady teaching it is, like, insane.
Oh, that's right.
Like, she's playing whale noises over the speakers. And, like, there's to go into a little bit more backstory, but B has like I said, she's an erotic artist, but she hasn't painted in a really long time. Because she had some, like, trauma around, like, her and her ex-boyfriend and stuff. And so she hasn't picked up a paintbrush in years. And so Jamie had this idea they should go to, like, one of those wine paint together classes, and try to get her, like, in this environment so that it's not so, you're just there to have fun, right? Like, that's all those are for. And, like, the gesture was really sweet. And so, but then you have, like, this insane teacher playing, like, whale noises over the freaking speakers. And, like, obviously B, like, one of her autism traits is, like, she can't handle, like, that kind of noise. And so Jamie, like, goes up to the teacher and he's like, hey, you know, the sounds are lovely, but you're gonna have to cut them off because my girlfriend, like, can't deal with it. The whole scene was just really, really cute. And they have
keep the man.
Yes, like, the man of all time, you know?
Keep him.
But all their little dates that they have together, like, real or fake, you know, as they tend to be, were so cute. And, like, I just loved this book so much because of how, like, precious everything was, and the characters were really great, and just overall it was so good. And like I said, I needed something light and refreshing, and this book did that for me. So I'm very happy that I picked it up, even though it was something that I normally wouldn't have, and if I'd have seen it in the store, I'd have been like, pass. But you know, I try to pick things like this sometimes for the book club because there's people in the club that like these books, and which is totally fine. But when I picked it as one of the options for retelling month, I was like, I won't read that one. But like I said, really glad I did. And another little fun fact, there's going to be at least one more, I think 2 more. Yeah, there'll be 2 more books in this like series. It's going along the route of like, there's 3 sisters. B has 2 sisters, and it's going to follow each sister.
Okay.
Well, and I think that was part of the forced like 3rd act breakup.
It was
that it introduced a change, like a point of change for the one sister that had been there in the whole book, and then it also introduced the second sister who literally wasn't physically in the same town for most of the book. So I think part of it was also like that was also the awkwardness of the 3rd act breakup, because it was like this like really forced like emotional situation, and also like a lot of work to try and like set up the other 2 books, or like set up the rest of the series, when you were like, now's not the time, we have heartbroken people.
Yeah, we're busy.
Right. The next one is about the sister that came in the late part of the first book, and it's childhood enemies to lovers.
Ooh.
So pretty interested to see how that's going to go. But yeah, anyway, that was my book, and it was really good.
It sounds really cute. I might check it out.
Yeah.
Even though it's like definitely not my thing.
Yeah. It is so far from my shit, but it does really sound like if I was going to read one of those books, it would be that one, you know?
Yeah, I've read the other like contemporary romances that I've read like are books that were recommended to me by people, and like that's basically how I get my recs for these things, and I like good characters, and these sounds like good characters, so I might check it out.
Yeah,
if the characters are good, it'll hold me in, even if the story is not really something I would vibe with typically.
Exactly, yeah.
I would be willing to give it a shot. Definitely more so than the contemporary romance. The last contemporary romance that I read was that book that I read when Kristen was visiting me.
Oh, Slow Burn?
Yeah.
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. No. Yeah, definitely if you're going to read one, make it this one. Because, like I said, characters were good. Plot was overall pretty good. It had some good tropes. You know, we all love that. You know, fine men. I don't know. It was really great. And, you know, if me and B both like it, then surely.
Well, yeah. If 50% of the podcast likes it, the other 50% is likely to like it too.
Yeah, we can get to 100%. It's fine.
Yeah.
I do think of everyone on the podcast, I probably do read, because that's, if I'm like stuck in a place, like a lot of times I'll read like Kindle Unlimited, you know, and churn through some contemporary romance or whatever. And a lot of it is because I do like the fake dating trope and the like notes passing trope.
Normally, if I'm going to pick up a romance book, I'm going to pick up a historical romance, because those are typically my favorite. And there's like 3 or 4 authors that have so many of them that I'll never even get close to reading them all in like the next century. So like I just like, oh, I'm in a slump, I'll pick this up and read the next one in the series, or blah, blah, blah. Lately I've been reading dark romance. I need to get out of that because...
There's some real dumpers in there.
Yeah, my Goodreads is embarrassing right now. Just ignore it because it's awful.
I'm only slightly judging you.
That's okay. I'll judge you the rest of the way, for lady.
Every time I mark one as read, I'm like, oh my god. I just know people are judging me so hard.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, like, especially the last ones I read, because they have, like, the awkward, like, half-naked people on the covers.
Now I have to go see what you're talking about.
It's terrible.
So, we all know, we've mentioned before, that I don't really tend to track the books that I read unless I, like, really like them or really hate them. So the last book on my Goodreads account is Tentacle, Entanglement by Siggy.
Is that what you're going to talk about today?
I wish I could. I talk about it so
God.
much in the book club that I feel like it would be a disservice to talk about it, since the majority of our listenership, especially right now, is from the book club. I do want to bring another Siggy Shade book to the podcast because it was the wildest fucking ride of my life.
Please do.
I did not bring a Siggy Shade book today. So like I said in the beginning, I bounced off of so many books trying to figure out what I was going to read for this month. So I just decided to go with a book that is a tried and true, that I love, and I actually mentioned it in our last episode Maybe last episode. I can't remember. Maybe the episode before.
Drum roll.
Yeah. But I mentioned it whenever we were talking about books that we would use to define our taste. So the book that I'm talking about today is A Natural History of Dragons by Marie Brennan.
Yay!
Ooh.
So, I'm kind of going to talk a little bit more about the series as a whole, as opposed to just the first book, because the series is so good. It's one of my favorites. There are 5 books, and there's a spin-off book that focuses on the main character of the series. Her granddaughter is the focus of the spin-off book. A Natural History of Dragons is written as a fictional memoir of Lady Isabella Trent. She is a dragon naturalist, which those 2 words together, amazing.
Isn't that like an oxymoron?
No, like I would love to be a dragon naturalist so much. So, in this world that the author has created, dragons are just another type of animal. They're just another apex predator. They are a product of evolution the same way that lions and great white sharks are, you know? Like, instead of wolves, they have wolf drakes. So, they have these dragons all over the place, and people don't really know very much about them because they're very dangerous because they're dragons.
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah. The story of Lady Trent, her name is Isabella, it's basically how she has grown up as a young woman in a world very much like the Victorian era of our world, where women are not offered the same opportunities to, you know, achieve an education, to basically their only job in life is to marry well and to have children. She doesn't want to do any of that. She wants to become a dragon naturalist. She's fascinated with them at a very young age and is fascinated by science and wants to learn everything. And she very much, well, actually, I was going to say she reminds me of Audrey Rose, but honestly, Audrey Rose reminds me of her. It's probably the better way because I read these books first.
Say less.
Yes, but she is very much someone who is thirsty for knowledge and is not going to let people stop her to get it. One of my favorite scenes in the entire series is in this first book. She's a little girl. I think she's like 7 or 8 years old. She's in the kitchen and the cook is like carving up a bird. I think it's a turkey, but it's some kind of like large bird for dinner. And she says, what is a wishbone for? This maid kind of chimes in. Oh, well, wishbones are for making wishes on. And this 6-year-old like little nerd looks at her and is like, I know what we use them for. I mean, what do birds use them for? Like, what are they actually for?
Oh my god.
Yes. So the cook explains to her that that's like how the bones are attached so that the wings can function properly and blah, blah, blah. And so naturally, because she is a 6-year-old little girl interested in natural science and little girls are just freaks like this anyways, she steals her brother's penknife and ends up coming across a dead bird in the yard and dissects it.
Oh my god!
Like you do, alright.
So relatable.
Yeah, so relatable. She, and then she gets caught and naturally gets punished because little girls are not supposed to do stuff like that, especially not in Victorian era, you know, England, basically.
I just had the funniest thought of little 6-year-old Audrey Rose coming across a body.
Yeah.
Just being like, let me dig in.
Yeah, that's basically what happened. She, like, found this, I think it's a dove. She finds it, like, dead in the garden somewhere. She, like, is very curious, but still has that, like, hesitation of being afraid of what she's about to do. And so she's, like, moving the wings around and, like, looking at it. And then she finally just, like, puts her courage to the sticking place and dissects it so she can look and see, like, what the insides look like and all the bones and how the muscles work. And it's very much this scientific curiosity that is itching at the back of the brain constantly and pushing her and driving her to do better and be better and learn more. But as I mentioned, she lives in a very proper time where women's expectations are vastly different from what she wants from herself. So she is met with a lot of pushback from people in her life who want her to just get married and to settle down and have a family, particularly like her mother and her brothers. It's actually, she mentions in the book that some of the people in her family don't speak to her anymore because they like are so worried about what she has done to her reputation affecting their position in society.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So The one person that is not like that is, well, he is like that, but he is more lenient is her father, because she's the only girl in a family of boys and daddy's girl. He kind of helps her to find a husband that is very tolerant of her interest in natural history. And that is really like the catalyst that gets this whole thing going. Like, she has this interest throughout her whole entire childhood, and like it pushes her to do dumb stuff like dissecting a dove in the yard. And there's another scene where she dresses up as a stable boy and goes on a wolf drake hunt and almost gets a stable boy killed because she doesn't know how to shoot a gun.
Oh my god. I love this little girl so much already.
She's incredible. She gets into the worst shit over the course of these 5 books. It's so funny. Political blunder after political blunder. It's fantastic. You do not understand how one person can fuck up so much. But her father finds her this husband who is very tolerant of Isabella's interest in natural history. And it ends up that he's more than tolerant. He is willing to indulge her in it. And they kind of go on this journey of her becoming this dragon naturalist. This is like, reading these books is like if David Attenborough wrote a series on how he became David Attenborough. You know, it is like everyone knows this woman. She's a scientist. She is a leader in her field. And she is now an old woman writing these books about how she became who she is. Because of that, I think that a lot of people might bounce off of this series for a couple of different reasons. For one thing, if you're not interested in like science, there's a lot of it in this book. Not anything like dense or hard to understand by any means, but like she talks about like animal behavior and the environment and stuff like that. Like, she is not sitting here like writing poetry about these dragons. There's a scene where they go on they're out on this expedition and they're like dissecting a dragon, and she is like notating and drawing all the bones and stuff like that. Like, there are scenes that I think some people might get bored with, especially in the first book, because a good portion of the first half of the book covers her childhood and her adolescence, and then it really picks up in the second half when she gets married. The reason that I think people would bounce off this book is one of the reasons why I like it so much, is because it doesn't pull any punches. It doesn't make her, she like never has to seem dumber than she actually is, even when she probably should. She wants people to consider her a peer, and she pushes for that constantly. And because of that, this book series has one of my favorite opposite-sex platonic relationships ever written. Ooh. Ever written in a series. So it's Isabella and another person who I won't say because I know Lady has not finished, but she started reading some of these books.
Yes.
So, but it's Isabella and it's a man. And never once throughout any books in this series did I think that those two were going to be involved romantically. It is a platonic friendship from start to finish.
I love that.
I do too.
It's so well done because you can like see this is how people really are. You know, you don't always have romantic tension with somebody just because they're the opposite sex, you know?
Right. It's such an underutilized relationship, I guess is the right word. Like in novels, like you just never really get to see like male and female platonic relationships played out to where like how they normally are, like what you said.
Yeah.
I mean, I blame like the love triangle thing on it. Like everyone kind of went with that, and then even if they don't have like a love triangle, it's like the idea of it still lingers in the back of your mind. The biggest example I can think of right now is like the Defy the Night trilogy right now.
Yeah. It's really funny because in the second book in this series, there's like a scene where Isabella and this guy are like they're talking about some plan that they're planning something for the expedition that they're on. And they're like sitting in Isabella's like tent when they're out in the basically African savannah. And somebody walks in and then she says in the next paragraph, she's like, this is where all the rumors started that so-and-so and I have this romantic relationship. And I can tell you now once for all that we never did. It's funny because she even like acknowledges that there is that perception of just because they're two colleagues and two friends who are, I guess not necessarily the opposite sex, but the sex that person is attracted to, you know, they have to be romantically involved because otherwise people can't wrap their head around it. And that's just not how it works. But these books are fantastic. My favorite one is book number 4. That's in the Labyrinth of the Drakes, but they're beautifully done, and they're just, like I said, it feels like you're reading a memoir for a real person, and you understand how this person grew from where they started into this famous figure that has influenced literally how their country works because of some political blunders and trouble they've gotten themselves into over the course of, 5 books. But it's just a wonderfully done story where you get to watch a woman who refuses to bow down to the expectations of what others have for her and pushes for what she knows she deserves, which is more education and more opportunity. And I don't know, I read the first book when I was in high school. The cover caught my eye at the bookstore, and at the time, when you're in high school, spending $30 on a hardcover book, that's a fucking hit. That's too much.
Right? Yeah, that's hella expensive in high school money.
So in high school money, I would go to Barnes & Noble and just stare at this book. I would literally go and pick it up and carry it around with me because the cover is so beautiful. I wanted to read it so bad. And then finally, the universe took mercy on me and it came out in paperback. And I've had the same paperback since high school.
Aww.
Yeah. It's just absolutely wonderful. And like I said, the cover art for these books is so fucking beautiful. It's gorgeous.
I would say you told me to read this over a year ago probably. And I looked at the covers whenever I was going to look at and read the summary about it, and they are really beautiful. The only thing that draws me away is what you said probably would. I just know that with how niche, sciencey it is, it's gonna drag me out of the story. But otherwise it sounds as you were explaining it sounds so good, but I just know myself, and I know that I'm gonna be bored at some point, just because when it gets too into that, niche area, my head gets out of it. It's like you said, it's for certain people.
Yeah.
Those people are Kaitlyn and me.
Well, and I was going to say, as you were explaining that, I'm like, it is no wonder that they love this, because it's right down their alley.
Yeah. Because, like I said, it's not like she's getting into, dense concepts, and she's not sitting there, explaining complex facets of microcellular biology to you or anything like that. But there are scenes where she is talking about, mating behavior and stuff like that might not be for everybody, but it's funny. And I love it because when I say she gets into political blunders, I'm talking every book. This bitch is getting herself into something that she does not need to be involved in.
Girl, calm down.
It's always accidental. She has the worst fucking luck.
Bless it.
I think when Kaitlyn recommended this book to me, we weren't even close friends or anything. No. I think we were just Tumblr mutuals.
Yeah.
But Kaitlyn has the best book recommendations, and she just hit the nail on the head for this specific book. For me, I felt really seen when I watched it, when I read it, because I could relate a lot to this little girl and how she grew up to be super obsessed with these dragons and stuff. I really liked that. Life got in the way, and I never finished the series, but still have the books, still in my book cart to be read. I'll get to them eventually.
Yeah, here I can read you this little passage here. This is when she first meets her husband. And it says, this paragraph says, "Another lady, perhaps, might have been able to tell you what he was wearing. For my own part, I viewed him with a naturalist's eye, seeing size, conformation, coloration, and identifying marks. The handkerchief tucked into his breast pocket was embroidered with a coat of arms, agent, 3 arrows, and a hand sable." So she's this is her future husband. She doesn't know that yet, but she is meeting this man out somewhere, and she is literally looking at him okay, height, XYZ, shoulder width, XY,
I love that.
She's completely sizing him up, and not at all in ooh, he's cute kind of way. Literally all right, he's 186 pounds, 6.5 feet tall. It's so funny.
Well, and I know you've recommended it, but I hadn't looked it up, so I didn't even realize that it talked about her as a girl. So now I'm really, really intrigued. This just bumped up probably
nice.
I don't know, a lot.
Yeah, I think that you would like it too, especially because it's very cool to see a world where the world building is very subtle. She doesn't really do that much with it, but at the same time, there are so many complex countries that Isabella gets involved with unintentionally. and the world building for those and like how they interact with her country is done really well. I think you would like it quite a bit. It's fantastic. It's just so much fun, and like, even though, Kristen, like I said, I don't necessarily know how attached you would be to it, every single one of us would be able to see ourselves in her in some way, of this like just wanting more than what is available to her, and wanting to be more than what has been set, like the standard that has been set for her. It's relatable, and she's ridiculous and intelligent and pushes around everybody. Even her husband, like, he doesn't want to take her on this expedition because it's dangerous, and she's like, no, I'm going. Like, I'm going.
That's nice. I already packed.
Yeah. Like, at first, she assumes that she's not going to get to go. And then as soon as he says that she can go, she's like all in. And then he's like, well, wait, maybe I shouldn't.
She literally like pulls, like she turns the corner and just opens a closet, and there's like literally everything's already ready to go.
Yeah,
She's
basically,
like, great,
yes.
cool.
Yeah.
She definitely has like the traits of a lot of female characters that I love, obviously, like Audrey Rose, Elizabeth Bennet. Yeah, I could go on and on. But so, like, I don't know, I'll probably get around to it eventually and, you know, see where it goes. Because, I mean, Lady already said it. You've never recommended me a bad book on purpose. You know, like, you know, sometimes you've been like, hey, you should read this, but I know going in that it's going to be shitty.
Yeah. Sometimes I recommend books to you because they're shitty.
Yeah,
like,
you know, fair enough.
It's terrible. You have to read it.
Exactly.
But yeah, that's A Natural History of Dragons by Marie Brennan. That is both the name of the series and the name of the first book. And I highly recommend it. It has been one of my favorites for like 12 years. So
read it.
Kristen and I have something special planned for our game.
We do.
I'm so scared.
Yeah.
I know. Y'all said you were doing something together, and I was like, oh.
Yeah, we kind of mentioned this in another episode, like, kind of offhandedly, and then this morning at like 6 a.m. as I was getting ready to go to the gym, I was like, oh my god, we have to do this.
I literally woke up to a Snapchat from Kristen like, we have to do this today.
So we are going to play Two Truths and a Lie, but it's Gideon the 9th edition.
I haven't read this.
That's the point.
That's the point.
Wait, lady, have you read this?
I've read the first one.
Yeah, ladies read the first one, but don't worry because Kristen and I tried to pick only things from the other two books.
And if there is anything in the first book, it's obscure and like...
Exactly, I would not realize.
This is only for the people that are insane like us.
Yeah, this is just so you can appreciate the absolute ludicrousness of this series.
Well, I don't know. I mean, every time I, like, more and more Locked Tomb stuff has been coming up on my Tumblr feed, and especially the more and more stuff that has, it's not just fan art, it's like wild scheming theories and stuff, and I just keep sending them, like forwarding them to Kristen and Kaitlyn and be like, I don't know what this is, but it says Locked Tomb, so here you go. Like,
You're like your mom. You're like your mom that at one point, like, someone mentioned, like, you liked it.
Oh my gosh, I've unlocked a new status. New level of mom.
Like,
oh no.
the mom that you mentioned once that you like something, and now the mom just buys you the same gift over and over again.
Oh, shit.
That's everybody with me and Kaitlyn with the Locked Tomb. They're like, oh, here you go.
I think this is yours. This belongs
I was like,
to you.
IDK, here you go.
All right, Kristen, why don't we, I'll pull it up too. We can read every other one. You can read one and then I'll read one.
Okay, do you want to start or me?
You go ahead.
Okay, so, here we go. There is a character named after a Macklemore lyric. Gideon refers to the soul of the earth as, quote, a big slut. Harrow uses soup to attempt a murder.
The Lie's the Macklemore character. That's my guess.
Okay, lady.
I'm gonna say the last one's the lie.
The soup.
Because I want the Macklemore lyric to be real.
B got it right. There is a character named after a rap lyric, but it's Eminem, not Macklemore.
What's the name?
Yeah.
Oh god, it's so long.
Wake remembrance of this Valiant dead, a bunch of Maori that I can't speak, and then snap back to reality. Oh, there goes gravity.
Nice.
Yeah, it's like a really long name. But yeah, Harrow does use soup to attempt a murder, and Gideon does refer to the earth as a big slut.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. Amazing.
I never doubted that one.
No,
oh yeah, it's very
that one was
on par.
so in character.
I'm so behind on like even reading this that like I remember seeing some fan art and I actually like still in my head I switched them.
Oh, you switched Gideon and Harrow?
Yeah, because I haven't read them and I just see like whatever it was. Yep, I'm a mess. It's fine. All right, here we go.
Okay. All right. Second one. A character tries to evil monologue but keeps messing up because her tummy hurts. God canonically looks like Edward Cullen. Harrow wants to write romance novels to make extra money.
The third one, the romance.
Just to be different, I'll say the second one.
The second one? So, B is right. It is the third one. There is a character that wants to write romance novels, but it is Palamedes, not Harrow.
Oh,
Of course, a boy.
my lovely.
The
Is that the
boy.
one that's everyone's supposed to be attracted to, but like no one actually is? The one you talked about climbing like a tree or
Yes,
something?
that's
Yeah.
Palamedes.
Yeah, it's Palamedes.
Okay.
Yes. Okay, let's do the next one. Okay.
Okay.
Wait, but I want to know about the tummy ache.
Oh, that's Ianthe Tridentarius.
Yeah.
At the end of the novel, she's trying to evil monologue, and she's like going through this horrible process of like going. I don't know how to describe this without literally spoiling the entire.
She's
plot.
just like done something to increase her power, and
and it hurts really bad.
Yeah, and her tummy hurts too bad to her to talk too much.
All right.
All right, Kristen, go with the next one.
All right. God is obsessed with Malibu Barbie. There is a canon official coffee shop AU. Kissing is described as investigating tonsils.
Ew.
What? Lady, you guess first. I don't know. Hold on.
The first one. God's obsessed with something, but it's not Malibu Barbie.
I have no idea. Wait, I have a question about the AU.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like, in the book?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's in the book.
Like, there's a reference, there's like a whole, it's like a whole like meta,
Yep.
like breaking the
Yep.
fourth wall,
Yep.
but like there's an AU in
Yep.
the book about
Yep.
the book?
Yep.
Yep.
I'll go with that.
Well, Lady got it.
Hey!
He's actually obsessed with Hollywood Barbie, not Malibu Barbie.
There you go.
But yeah.
Semantics. All right.
Yeah. But yeah, so there is a canon official coffee shop AU in
Yep.
the novel.
How does that even happen?
It's very hard to
Very
explain.
complicated.
The last thing sounds like something that Harrow would say.
It was actually Ianthe who said it.
Oh.
But,
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. So
Wait, is it tonsil hockey or investigating
no,
tonsils?
she literally says like you investigated my tonsils.
Yeah.
Ew.
Yeah.
Ew.
Yeah, she's like, you were the one who was investigating
Ugh,
my
I
tonsils.
got like a chill from that. Gross.
I love your
Ugh.
Maura Quirk impersonation.
Thank you. It's terrible, but thank you.
Obsessed. Okay, y'all ready for the last one?
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
This one's hard.
Yeah. Book 3 takes place entirely in an abandoned shopping mall. God has a 3-way on the dining room table, and pulling someone's arm off is used as a stand-in for sex.
Can you repeat?
Yes.
I have to figure out which one's the lie.
Yes.
Okay. Book 3 takes place entirely in an abandoned shopping mall.
Is that book 3?
Book
Yeah.
3, yeah.
All of book 3.
Yep. God has a 3-way on the dining room table,
I
or
think that's true.
pulling someone's arm off is used as a stand-in for sex.
I'm at 1 or 3.
The first one's fake.
Is it? Or does like Tasman Muir like Clerks, the movie?
Who knows?
I'll go.
No, the first one sounds like there's some kind of semantic where like the first chapter or something is not gonna be the shopping mall.
What's the third one again?
The third one is pulling someone's arm off is used as a stand-in for sex.
That's fucked up enough. It's probably true. I think 1 as well.
That is the entire premise of this whole series. It's so fucked up that it has
it's
to be
probably
true.
true.
That's how I've been choosing, honestly.
It's been working for you, so...
I don't know. Let's both do one.
Okay, yeah, you're right. It takes place on like a refugee planet. It has nothing to do with a shopping mall, but I just was thinking like what would be believable that she would put an entire book.
That's 3 for B and 2 for me, by the way.
Yeah.
Y'all did good. You did better
You did
than
really
I thought
good.
you would, because some of them were hard.
I went with what is so fucked up. It's probably true.
Yep.
Because I remember when Kaitlyn described it for the podcast, and like whatever your description was like 70 non-compatible adjectives.
Yeah.
and
I paired
pairs.
that list. I paired that list way down.
Yeah, I know. And but it was just like, this was like trying to cram way too much clothing into a tiny, tiny suitcase.
Yep.
And this is what fit.
But it all fits. But yeah.
Yeah, that was
you
our
guys
game.
did really good.
Yeah.
And again, not because we have any familiarity with it necessarily.
No.
But just, you set us up with the expectation of like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah. Which is why I tried to like pick stuff that was either completely ridiculous or fucked up. Because I was like, I don't want them to know, I don't want them to be able to tell the difference between the really fucked up ones and the regular ones.
Yeah. Well, and we also didn't want to do anything from Gideon because we knew Lady'd already read it. And
Yeah.
Kaitlyn had already done like an episode on it. So I was like, well, they already kind of know some of the fucked up things because we've talked about it. But there's just so many fucked up weird things in this series that we could play this game every recording for like a century. And there would be so many things to talk about.
I feel like the fandom for this book, this series, is like so unhinged, and it just like makes everything even like I've read the first book and like it's a pretty normal book, but I look at the fandom and I'm like, there's nothing normal going on here.
No.
None of us are normal.
I know I have to, like, to read it, I'm going to have to do it over the summer, where, like, I feel like, based on just what Kaitlyn and Kristen have said, where it's like, I'm going to have to sit, read, reread, go, what the heck did I just read?
Yeah.
Reread.
Yeah.
I don't know about Kaitlyn, but Harrow's probably my favorite one.
Harrow's my favorite too. I'm a middle book bitch. Like, I love whenever things are like in the thick of it. The Wicked King is my favorite out of...
I was gonna say,
yeah,
Wicked King.
The Wicked King, like, absolutely takes the cake. I have probably over 150 highlights in The Wicked King alone.
Not only that, just the cliffhanger in
Yeah.
The Wicked King. You're like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Like...
I love when shit's in the thick of it.
And in the episode where you described which books you can use to describe you, you also chose a second book because you also took the Princess Gambit.
Yes,
I
I
believe.
did. Yes, that's
Yeah.
right. Yeah. I'm a middle book
books,
bitch.
middle books.
What
So
can I
many
say?
people hate on middle books, and it's like, middle books are where the meat is at. Like,
Yes.
what are you talking about? Every series, especially trilogies that I love, the second book is even in Stalking Jack the Ripper, Honey
Yep.
Prince Dracula is the best one, and it's the second one. Like, get out of here.
Yeah.
That being said, Valiant in the modern fairy tales, well, it's not like a true middle book, but like that was the hardest book of that series.
It's
for me to
rough.
read.
Rough.
It was so rough. Which you all need to read the modern fairy tales. I'm just saying.
I have a whole Holly Black shelf.
Yeah, I do too. I own it. It just I haven't gotten around to it. Kaitlyn, did you ever read Book of Night?
No, I have it. I haven't read it yet.
I haven't read it yet either.
It's so good.
Oh my god.
Mine is literally sitting on my nightstand, and it's been sitting there for a year and a half.
Oh my god. You have to read it.
People like were shitting on it. I don't know why. It was good.
Y'all, we have to wrap up or we're gonna be talking about Holly Black for 30 minutes again.
Yes.
Let me remove the window so I don't have to see your face while I read this. I'm gonna put a tape on the camera so I don't have to see anyone. You can find us at Read in the Dark Pod on Instagram and Tumblr. Our email is readinthedarkpod@gmail.com if you want to ask a question about any of the books that we've discussed this episode. We also have a book club. You can find us at Warren Page Library on Instagram and Tumblr, which will have details on how to join our Discord. Finally, we are hosting some challenges on Storygraph through the book club, which you can find by searching Warren Page Library's Book of the Month and Warren Page Library's 23 for 2023 in the challenges section of the app. Kaitlyn's book this episode was A Natural History of Dragons by Mary Brennan, And Kristen's book for this episode was Two Wrongs Make a Right by Chloe Liese. Books mentioned this episode are The Slow Burn by Kristen Ashley, Tentacle Entanglement by Siggy Sade, Defy the Night by Brigid Kemmerer, Stalking Jack the Ripper by Kerri Maniscalco, Gideon the Ninth by Tamsyn Muir, The Wicked King by Holly Black, as well as Valiant and Book of Night by Holly Black, and The Princess Gambit by C.S. Pacat. Keep reading, and we'll see y'all next time. Bye!
Bye!
Bye.
Bye.